I'm Kendra Daniels, 29 years old, and last June, on my wedding day, my own mother grabbed the microphone in front of 200 guests and said something I will never be able to unhear. She told them I was a liar. She told them I trapped my husband. She said everything about me, everything they thought they knew, was a lie. 200 people went silent. My bouquet was still in my hand. My mascara wasn't even smudged yet. But inside, I was falling apart. What my mother didn't know was that my husband had spent 6 months quietly investigating her. And what he found, forged documents, stolen savings, recorded confessions, would shatter a decade of lies in under 5 minutes. 6 people walked out of that reception in tears, not for my mother, for themselves, because they realized they'd been her victims too. Before I tell you everything, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly speaks to you. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. Now let me take you back 3 years, to the night I first realized something in my family was very, very wrong. I grew up believing I was bad with money, not because anyone showed me a spreadsheet or pointed to a bank statement, just because my mother said so, over and over. Since I was old enough to hold a dollar bill, Judith Hale controlled every cent that touched our household. Allowance? She held it. Birthday money from relatives? I'll put it somewhere safe for you, baby. Summer job paychecks at 16? Give them to me. You'll just waste it. And I believed her. I believed her the way you believe the sky is blue, without question, without proof, without even thinking to ask why. When I was 17, my grandfather, Harold Morrow, passed away. He was a retired carpenter, quiet man, smelled like cedar and black coffee. He used to call me Kendra Girl and slip me $10 bills when Mom wasn't looking. After his funeral, I asked my mother if Grandpa had left anything for me or my sister Sloane. She didn't hesitate, not even a blink. He barely left enough to cover the funeral costs, Kendra. You know he wasn't a wealthy man. I never saw a will. I never asked again. At 22, I moved out, rented a studio apartment the size of a parking spot, started freelancing as a graphic designer. I worked 12-hour days. I tracked every penny in a notebook, literally a paper notebook, because I was so afraid of my own spending. And still, every month my bank account made no sense. Money would appear, then vanish. Deposits I didn't recognize, withdrawals I couldn't explain. I'd call the bank, get transferred 3 times, then give up. I told myself what my mother had always told me. You're just not good with money, Kendra. I was 29 years old before I learned the truth. I wasn't bad with money. Someone was taking it. Here's how my mother operated. If I asked a question, any question about money, about decisions, about why things felt unfair, she didn't answer it. She cried, every single time. After everything I sacrificed as a single mother, you're accusing me? That sentence could end any conversation. It was her skeleton key. One turn, and every door slammed shut. My parents divorced when I was 8. Dad moved to Oregon. Calls got shorter, then stopped. Judith became the center of gravity in our house, and she liked it that way. She told the relatives I was difficult. She told her church friends I was ungrateful. She told our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, that I once stole $40 from her purse. I was 11. I didn't steal anything, but Mrs. Patterson still looks at me sideways to this day. Meanwhile, my little sister Sloane got a different version of motherhood. Mom paid her college tuition, bought her a used Honda Civic for her 20th birthday, took her shopping for interview clothes when she started applying to grad schools. When I asked why I didn't get the same help, Judith had her answer ready. Sloane is responsible. You're not. I swallowed it, year after year. I swallowed it like medicine I thought I deserved. Then, about 3 months before I met Marcus, Sloane sent me a text. Late at night. Out of nowhere. Hey, did Mom ever mention Grandpa's trust to you? Something feels off with my tuition account. I stared at that message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I closed the app, set my phone down, went to bed. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But 3 months later, I met someone who made me realize I'd been ready all along. I just needed someone to believe me first. I met Marcus Reed on a Tuesday. He was sitting in a corner booth at a cafe downtown, laptop open, papers spread across the table like a crime scene. I was there to meet a client who never showed up. I ordered a coffee, sat 2 booths away, and tried not to stare at the man who was frowning at a spreadsheet like it personally offended him. He caught me looking, smiled, said, "Sorry about the mess. Numbers don't like to behave." I laughed. He asked if I wanted to sit closer so he didn't have to shout. I did. That was it. No fireworks, no grand gesture, just a man with kind eyes and a very organized laptop bag. Marcus was 32, a forensic accountant at an independent auditing firm. His job, as he explained it over our third date, was to follow money that doesn't want to be found. I thought that was interesting. I didn't think it would matter. As weeks turned into months, Marcus started noticing things about me that nobody else ever had. "You budget everything, Kendra. Every grocery run, every utility bill. You've got it mapped to the cent." "So? So you keep telling me you're bad with money. That doesn't match." I shrugged. "Maybe I'm just compensating." He set his fork down, looked at me the way he looked at those spreadsheets, careful, patient, like the answer was there if he just kept reading. "You haven't bought yourself new shoes in 2 years. Your winter coat has a broken zipper. You eat rice 4 nights a week." He paused. "That's not bad with money, Kendra. That's someone who never has enough, and I don't understand why." I changed the subject, talked about a design project. He let me, but the look in his eyes didn't go away. He saw something that didn't add up. And Marcus was the kind of man who couldn't leave a number out of place. The first time Marcus met my mother, she wore her best smile. It was a Sunday dinner at Judith's house. She'd cooked pot roast, set the good china, even lit candles. "I just want to make a nice impression," she told me on the phone that morning. The first hour went fine. Judith asked Marcus about his family, complimented his tie, laughed at his jokes. Then she started. "Kendra's always been a dreamer," she said, refilling her wine glass. "Not really a doer, you know. Head in the clouds." Marcus set his knife down gently. "Actually, she built her freelance business from scratch. That takes real discipline." Judith's smile stayed, but something behind her eyes went cold, like a door closing. "Well, a mother sees things a partner doesn't." "I'm sure," Marcus said. Polite, measured, but he didn't agree. The rest of dinner was quieter. Sloane texted under the table. Judith cleared the plates with a little too much force. That night my phone rang at 11. "I don't trust him, Kendra." "Mom, he was perfectly nice to you." "He's after something." "He's not after anything. Men like that, smooth, educated, they always want something." I closed my eyes. "Mom, please, I love him." Silence. A long one. Then very softly, "You'll see." She hung up. In the car the next morning, Marcus said something that stuck with me. "Your mom asked me what I do 3 times last night." "She's just curious." "Maybe, but every time I said forensic accounting, she changed the subject, like the words made her uncomfortable. I told him he was overthinking it. He nodded. Didn't push. Looking back, that dinner was the night everything shifted. Not for me, for my mother. She saw Marcus clearly, and she was afraid. Because for the first time, someone in my life knew how to follow the money. My mother didn't waste time. Within a week of that dinner, Judith launched a quiet campaign, phone call by phone call, text by text, to turn everyone around me against Marcus. She called my Aunt Colleen first. I know because Colleen mentioned it at a family barbecue, trying to sound casual. "Your mom says Marcus is pretty controlling, huh?" "He's not controlling, Aunt Colleen. She said he monitors your spending. He's an accountant. He monitors everyone's spending. It's literally his job." Colleen shrugged, but the seed was planted. Then Judith went to Sloane. "Your sister's pulling away from this family," she told her over lunch. "That man is isolating her," Sloane told me later. She wasn't sure what to believe. And then came the texts. Directly to me. Soft. Almost sweet. That was always the most dangerous version of my mother. "Are you sure Marcus isn't just with you for stability, honey? I just worry. You've never been good at reading people." "A mother knows, Kendra. I can see things you can't. I finally called her. Why are you doing this, Mom? I'm protecting you. That's what mothers do. It doesn't feel like protection. A beat of silence. That's because you've never known what's good for you. I sat on my kitchen floor after that call, held my knees, breathed. Part of me wanted to scream, part of me wanted to apologize, and that part scared me the most, because it meant her voice was still louder than mine inside my own head. That night, I looked at Marcus across the dinner table. He was reading, quiet, steady. I hear you, Mom, I whispered to no one, but I get to decide what's good for me now. I just didn't know yet how much that decision would cost. Marcus proposed on a Saturday in October. He took me back to the cafe where we met. Same corner booth, same terrible fluorescent lighting. He'd hidden the ring in a book he'd been pretending to read, some old hardcover about tax law. When he opened it to the hollowed-out center, I laughed so hard I cried. "Is that a yes?" he asked. "It's a yes." He slid the ring on my finger, and for about 45 seconds, the world was perfect. Then I called my mother. "Mom, Marcus proposed. I said yes." Silence. 10 full seconds. I counted. "I hope you know what you're doing." No congratulations, no squeal, no, "Oh, honey, I'm so happy for you." Just that. Cold, measured, like a warning. I hung up and told myself it was just shock. She'd come around. 2 days later, I got a letter from my bank. It said a savings account under my name had been closed, per the request of the joint account holder. Remaining balance, 0. I called the bank immediately. "I didn't request this. I didn't even know this account existed." The representative paused, typed something. "Ma'am, this account was opened when you were 17. The co-signer is Judith Hale." My stomach dropped. 17? "Yes, ma'am. August 2013. August 2013. The month my grandfather died." "What was the balance before it was closed?" More typing. "I'm not able to disclose the full history over the phone, but the closing balance was withdrawn in a single transaction 3 days ago." 3 days ago. The day after I told my mother I was getting married. I set the phone down. My hands were shaking. 17. That was the year Grandpa Harold died. The year my mother told me he didn't leave much. How long had this been going on? That night, I sat across from Marcus at our kitchen table and told him everything. The bank letter. The joint account I didn't know about. The timing. 3 days after the engagement. August 2013. Marcus didn't shout. He didn't slam the table. He didn't even look surprised, exactly. He looked like a man who'd been waiting for a puzzle piece to fall, and it just had. "Can I see your bank statements?" he said. "All of them." I hesitated. Not because I didn't trust him, but because some part of me, the part my mother built, was still whispering that I'd done something wrong, that this was my fault somehow. "All of them," he repeated, gently, like he was talking to someone standing at the edge of a cliff. I pulled out my laptop, gave him everything, every login, every statement, every piece of my financial life. Marcus worked until 3 in the morning. I fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up, he was still at the table, but his face was different, harder. "Kendra." "What?" "There are at least 4 accounts linked to your social security number that you didn't open." 4? "And they've all been systematically drained over the past 12 years. 12 years, since I was 17, since Grandpa Harold died. I felt nauseous. Not about the money, about the math. 12 years of lies. 12 years of, "You're just bad with money, Kendra." 12 years of eating rice 4 nights a week while my mother was draining accounts I didn't even know existed. "What do you want to do?" Marcus asked. I stared at the table, at the numbers on his screen, at the man who'd sat up all night to find the truth because I mattered enough to him. "Find everything," I said. That night, Marcus began building a case. He didn't know yet that what he'd find would be worse than either of us imagined. Marcus started with Grandpa Harold. "If there were accounts opened in your name when you were 17, he told me, "there's probably a triggering event, an inheritance, a trust, something that created the money in the first place." He searched public probate records first, found Harold Morrow's name in the county filing system. Then he tracked down Grandpa's attorney, A retired man named Donald Fletcher, living in a small house outside of town, still sharp at 74. Mr. Fletcher remembered Harold clearly. Good man. Came to me in 2012, about a year before he passed. Wanted to set up a trust for his two granddaughters, made sure it was airtight. He still had the original documents. Marcus sat at Mr. Fletcher's kitchen table and read the will. Then he read it again. Harold Morrow had left a trust of $185,000, split equally between his two granddaughters, Kendra Daniels and Sloane Daniels. Judith Hale was named as the trust administrator. But the will was specific. Each granddaughter was to receive her share upon turning 21. I was 29. Sloane was 25. Neither of us had ever received a single penny. Then Marcus asked the question that changed everything. Do you have any other version of this will on file? Mr. Fletcher frowned. What do you mean, other version? There's only one. Marcus pulled up a photo on his phone. A document Judith had shown the family years ago. It read, all assets to Judith Hale for the management and care of the family. Mr. Fletcher stared at the screen for a long time. That's not what Harold signed. That's not even the same format. 2 wills, 1 real, 1 forged, and $92,500 that should have been mine 8 years ago. Your grandfather didn't forget you, Kendra. He never forgot you. Marcus didn't push me. He never pushed me, but he said something I couldn't ignore. If we're going to build a real case, Kendra, we need her to say it, in her own words. We lived in a one-party consent state. That meant I could record a phone call without telling the other person, and it would be legally admissible. I knew the law. I just didn't know if I could stomach the conversation. It took me 3 days to make the call. I sat on our bedroom floor. Marcus was in the next room, close enough to hear, far enough to give me space. My hands were shaking so badly I had to hold the phone with both palms. I pressed call. She picked up on the second ring. Mom, did Grandpa leave anything for me and Sloane? She answered fast. Too fast. I already told you. He barely left enough to cover funeral costs. But someone mentioned there might have been a trust. Who told you that? Her voice sharpened. That Marcus? He's filling your head with nonsense. Mom, I just need the truth. And then, the shift, the softening, the weapon she'd used on me my entire life. Baby, I am the truth. Everything I did was to protect you girls. Protect us from what? Silence. I could hear her breathing. Then, from making the same mistakes I made. Your grandfather's money would have ruined you. I nearly dropped the phone. She said it. She actually said it. Not that the money didn't exist. That it would have ruined me. She'd just confirmed everything. The trust was real. The money was real. And she'd taken it. I ended the call. Set the phone on the carpet. Marcus appeared in the doorway. He didn't say anything. Just sat down beside me. She said it would have ruined me. She spent it on herself. And she recorded her own confession without knowing it. The wedding was 2 months out. Marcus and I made a decision together. We wouldn't act yet. Not until the case was airtight. He sent copies of everything, the original will, the forged version, the bank records, the recording, to a lawyer and to a secure cloud backup. The evidence lived on his phone, on 2 hard drives, and in a locked folder at the attorney's office. If anything ever goes sideways, Marcus said, we're covered from every angle. I nodded, tried to focus on the wedding, the venue, the flowers, the guest list, 200 people, family, friends, co-workers, and Judith. That's when something strange happened. My mother, who had spent weeks trying to torpedo my relationship, suddenly became helpful. She called me with caterer recommendations, offered to handle the seating chart, asked about the centerpieces. She was warm, engaged, almost excited. I just want your day to be perfect, baby, she said. I should have been suspicious, but there's a part of every daughter, no matter how much she's been hurt, that wants to believe her mother is capable of love without conditions. I let her in. She asked for one thing, a speaking slot at the reception. A mother's toast to her daughter, she called it. I said yes. Sloane called me that same week. Her voice was low. Mom's been on the phone constantly. She's been talking to Uncle Greg. She sounds angry. About what? I don't know, but it doesn't feel right. I asked Marcus that night. Should we be worried? He looked at me across the kitchen counter, calm as always, but there was something behind his eyes I hadn't seen before. Readiness. We should be prepared. I gave my mother the microphone. I gave the wolf the keys to the henhouse. And I had no idea what she was planning to do with them. So at this point, I had evidence my mother forged my grandfather's will, drained my accounts, and lied to me for over a decade. And now she wanted to give a toast at my wedding. If you were me, would you have let her speak? Drop a 1 in the comments if you'd say yes, or a 2 if you'd have cut her off right there. I really want to know what you'd do. Now, let me tell you what happened next. The day was perfect. That's the part that makes it worse. June 14th, an outdoor garden estate 20 minutes outside the city. White canopy, fairy lights strung between old oak trees, round tables draped in linen, pale blue hydrangeas in glass vases. The kind of venue I'd pinned to a vision board 5 years ago and never thought I'd actually stand inside. 200 guests filled the chairs for the ceremony. Marcus's parents, his older brother, college friends, co-workers, neighbors. And on my side, Aunt Colleen, Uncle Greg, cousins, a few friends from high school, Grandpa Harold's old fishing buddy Ray, and Sloane, sitting in the front row in a sage green dress, already crying before the music started. I walked down the aisle alone. No one to give me away. I'd decided that months ago. If I was walking into a new life, I was walking in on my own feet. Marcus was waiting at the end, standing under an arch of white roses. His eyes were red before I reached him. We said our vows, simple, short, real. He held my hands the whole time. I choose you, he said. Today, tomorrow, when it's easy, when it's not. We exchanged rings. We kissed. Everyone stood and clapped, and I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe today would just be a wedding. A beautiful, ordinary, perfect wedding. The reception began. Dinner was served. People laughed, clinked glasses, danced. Golden hour light poured through the trees. And at the family table, my mother sat in a dark crimson dress, richer, bolder, louder than anything else in the room. She looked beautiful. She always did. Her hair was done. Her lipstick was fresh. She smiled at everyone who passed. But her eyes, if you knew where to look, were ice cold. For 3 hours, I let myself believe this was just a wedding. Just a beautiful, normal wedding. The MC tapped his glass just after 8 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special toast this evening. Please welcome the mother of the bride, Judith Hale. Applause, warm, polite, a few ahs from the older guests. This was supposed to be the tender part of the night, the part where the mother tells a story about her little girl and everyone reaches for their napkins. Judith stood, smoothed her crimson dress, took the microphone from the MC with a practiced smile. She stepped up to the small podium near the dance floor. The projector screen behind her, the one we'd set up for a photo slideshow later, was dark. The fairy lights glowed above her head. Thank you all for being here tonight, she said. Her voice was steady, warm, confident. She looked out at the crowd, then down at me. I want to talk about my daughter. I smiled, squeezed Marcus's hand under the table. Kendra was the sweetest little girl, always drawing, always dreaming. A few guests nodded. Someone said, "Ah." She had this way of looking at the world like it owed her something beautiful. People chuckled softly. I felt my shoulders relax. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe this was just a toast. Then her voice shifted. Just slightly, a half-tone lower, slower. But there are things about my daughter that none of you know. The chuckles stopped. I sat up straighter. Beside me, Marcus's hand tightened around mine. Judith looked directly at me now, not at the crowd, at me. Things I've tried to tell her, things I've begged her to face. My chest locked. I couldn't breathe. Sloane, at the family table, slowly reached for her phone, placed its screen down on her lap, pressed record. And then my mother said the words that split my wedding in half. I want everyone here to know, my mother said, her voice ringing clear across 200 silent faces, that my daughter trapped this man. The word trapped hit the room like a slap. No one moved. She has been lying about who she is. A spoon clattered against a plate somewhere behind me. Someone inhaled sharply. I couldn't tell who. The whole room had turned into a single, suffocating wall of eyes. Kendra has been hiding debts, hiding her past, hiding who she really is, from Marcus, and from all of you. My fingers went numb around my napkin. I could feel the fairy lights above me, the soft June air, the smell of hydrangeas, and none of it felt real anymore. I tried to stop this wedding. Judith pressed her hand to her chest, the gesture she'd perfected over decades. I begged her to come clean. She refused. A murmur rolled through the tables. Marcus's mother put her hand over her mouth. His father leaned forward, jaw tight. So I'm doing it for her. Judith looked at the crowd now, not at me, at them. Because that's what a mother does. She set the microphone on the podium, stepped down, walked back to her chair with the posture of someone who had just delivered a eulogy. Solemn, righteous, untouchable. She sat, smoothed her dress, took a sip of water. 200 people stared at me. The bride, in white, sitting next to a groom who was supposed to be the victim of my trap. I couldn't speak. I couldn't stand. I couldn't even cry. Under the table, Sloane's phone was still recording, and beside me, Marcus hadn't let go of my hand. Not once. He leaned close, so close only I could hear. Do you trust me? I looked at him. My husband, my partner, the man who'd spent 6 months preparing for a moment he prayed would never come. I nodded. Marcus squeezed my hand one last time. Then he let go. He stood slowly, adjusted his jacket, buttoned the single button with the same calm precision he used for everything. Spreadsheets, grocery lists, promises. The room watched him. 200 people who didn't know what to believe. He walked to the podium. No rush, no trembling. His shoes clicked against the wooden dance floor in the silence. Judith looked up from her water glass. For the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Something she wasn't fast enough to hide. Marcus picked up the microphone, held it like a man who'd never used one before and didn't particularly want to now. I appreciate Judith's concern. His voice was even, not cold, not angry, just level. The way a bridge is level, built to hold weight. She's right about one thing. There are things many of you don't know. He reached into his inside jacket pocket, pulled out his phone. But the person who's been lying, it's not Kendra. He looked at my mother. Actually, Judith, I have something about your family. Judith's mouth opened, then closed. You see, I'm a forensic accountant. It's my job to follow money that doesn't want to be found. 6 months ago, Kendra and I discovered something in her financial records that didn't make sense, so I started looking. He unlocked the phone, held it up. And what I found, I think everyone here deserves to see. 200 people leaned forward. I could hear the creak of chairs, the rustle of suit jackets and dresses shifting. The garden was so quiet I could hear crickets in the hedges beyond the canopy. Marcus connected his phone to the projector, the one we'd set up for our wedding slideshow. The screen behind the podium flickered to life, and my mother's face went white. 2 documents appeared side by side on the screen. This, Marcus said, pointing to the left, is the original last will and testament of Harold Morrow, filed in 2012 with his personal attorney, Donald Fletcher. Notarized, witnessed, legally binding. He let the room read it. I watched their eyes move across the text. It establishes a trust of $185,000, split equally between Harold's 2 granddaughters, Kendra and Sloane. Judith Hale is named as the trust administrator. The will states clearly, each granddaughter receives her share when she turns 21. He paused. Let the silence do its work. Kendra is 29. Sloane is 25. Neither of them has ever received a cent. Then he pointed to the right side of the screen. And this is the version Judith showed the family after Harold's death. This one says, and I'm quoting, "All assets to Judith Hale for the management and care of the family." A murmur broke through the room like water through a crack. These 2 documents are not the same. One of them is real, one of them is forged. Aunt Colleen stood up from her chair. Her napkin fell to the ground. She didn't pick it up. Uncle Greg sat frozen, both hands flat on the table, staring at the screen like he'd seen a ghost. Judith's chair scraped back. She was on her feet. "That's a lie!" Her voice was high, ragged. "He's making this up! He fabricated—" "These are official documents, Judith." Marcus didn't raise his voice, not by a single decibel. "Notarized, verified by the original attorney." He looked at the room. "Kendra, my wife, was supposed to receive $92,500 8 years ago." He looked at my mother. She never saw a penny. Judith opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "But there's more," Marcus said. Those 3 words landed like stones in still water. The ripple passed through every table. He tapped his phone. A progress bar appeared on the projector screen. Then audio, clear, unmistakable, filled the garden through the reception speakers. My voice first. "Mom, did Grandpa leave anything for me and Sloan?" Then hers. "I already told you. He barely left enough to cover funeral costs." A pause. My voice again. "But someone mentioned there might have been a trust—" And Judith's, sharp now, cutting. "Who told you that? That Marcus? He's filling your head with nonsense." Guests looked at each other. Some looked at Judith. She was standing by her chair, hands gripping the back of it, knuckles white. Then came the part everyone would remember. My voice, steady. "Mom, I just need the truth." And hers, soft, sweet, the voice of a mother who knows exactly what she's doing. "Baby, I am the truth. Everything I did was to protect you girls." "Protect us from what?" Silence on the recording. Then, "From making the same mistakes I made. Your grandfather's money would have ruined you." The audio stopped. The garden was so quiet I could hear someone's ice shifting in their glass 3 tables away. Judith had just confirmed, in her own voice, in her own words, that the money existed and she had taken it. "That was taken out of context," Judith shouted. Marcus didn't flinch. "There are 7 minutes of context on this recording, Judith. Would you like me to play all of it?" She didn't answer. At the family table, Sloan stood, phone still recording, tears rolling down her face. "Mom," she said. Her voice broke on the word. "Is my tuition account real? Or did you take from me, too?" Judith spun toward her youngest daughter. "Don't you dare turn on me!" Sloan didn't back down. "I'm not turning on you. I'm asking you a question." It started with Aunt Colleen. She'd been standing since Marcus showed the wills. Now she stepped out from behind her table, hands trembling, and spoke loud enough for the whole garden to hear. "Judith, you told me you'd pay me back the $30,000. You said you were struggling. You said it was for the girls." Judith's head snapped toward her. "Colleen, sit down." "I took out a second mortgage for you," Colleen's voice cracked. "I almost lost my house." Then Uncle Greg. He didn't stand. He just spoke from his chair, his voice low and hoarse, like the words had been lodged in his throat for a decade. "She pushed me off the trust. Said Dad wanted it that way, that he didn't trust me to handle the money." He shook his head slowly. "I believed her for 11 years. Cousin Robert, 2 tables back. She borrowed my car in 2019, said she needed it for 2 weeks, told me it was totaled in a parking lot. I never even filed a claim because she cried so hard." One by one, like dominoes. Each confession pulled another from the room, each one a small, separate wound that Judith had inflicted and covered with the same warm smile and the same wounded mother act. 6 people left the reception. Aunt Colleen walked out crying, her husband's arm around her shoulders. Uncle Greg followed, one hand pressed over his face. Cousin Robert, Greg's wife Linda. A woman I recognized as one of Judith's oldest friends. She left without a word, and Sloan. My sister walked past our mother without looking at her, phone clutched to her chest, tears still falling. They didn't leave because they hated Judith. They left because they recognized themselves in that screen. They were victims too. Or they were ashamed they'd believed her for so long. My mother stood alone. Crimson dress, candlelight, 200 witnesses, and for the first time in my life, I saw her without her mask. If you've ever discovered that someone you trusted, someone in your own family, had been lying to you for years, I want you to know something. You're not alone. And this story isn't finished yet. If you're feeling something right now, tell me in the comments. What would you say to Judith? And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. The turning point is coming. Let me tell you what happened after the wedding. I don't remember deciding to stand. My body just did it. The chair slid back. My dress rustled against the tablecloth. Marcus's hand brushed my arm, not to stop me, just to let me know he was there. I walked toward my mother, slowly. Past the tables of guests who didn't know whether to watch or look away. Past the projector screen still glowing with two wills, one real, one fake. Past the speakers that still held the echo of her own voice. I stopped 3 feet from her. "Mom!" She looked up at me. Her eyes were wild, not with guilt, not with regret, but with the frantic, cornered look of someone who has run out of moves. "Kendra, you don't understand." "I do understand." My voice was steady. "I don't know how. For the first time, I really do. You said I was bad with money. I wasn't. You were taking it." She opened her mouth. "You said Grandpa didn't leave us anything. He did. And you stole it." "I was trying to—" "You said Marcus was after something. He was. He was after the truth." Judith's chin quivered. "Everything I did was for this family." "No, Mom. Everything you did was for control." I took a breath, the deepest one I'd taken all night. "I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to make a scene. I'm going to do something you never expected." She stared at me. "I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to let the truth speak for itself." I turned around, walked back to my table, sat down next to my husband, picked up my glass of water and took a sip. My hands didn't shake. "You raised me to be quiet," I said, not turning around. Loud enough for the room to hear. "You didn't raise me to be stupid." No one applauded. No one needed to. The silence said everything. The week after the wedding, Marcus and I sat in a law office on the 4th floor of a building downtown. The attorney's name was Patricia Sinclair. Silver hair, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. 22 years specializing in estate fraud and financial exploitation. She didn't do small talk. She opened the folder Marcus had prepared, put on her glasses, and started reading. We sat in silence for 11 minutes. I counted the ticks on the wall clock, then she closed the folder. "You have a very strong case," Marcus nodded. "We know. The forged will alone could be grounds for criminal referral. Combined with the bank records, the unauthorized accounts, and the recorded admission, this is textbook financial exploitation." She looked at me. "What outcome are you hoping for?" I'd thought about that question for weeks. Revenge? No. Prison? No. I just wanted what was mine, and I wanted it to stop. I want the money returned, mine and my sister's, and I want her removed from any legal authority over our finances, permanently. Patricia nodded. "We'll file a civil suit for recovery of the misappropriated trust funds. I'd also recommend filing a report with Adult Protective Services regarding the financial exploitation." I flinched at the word exploitation. It felt too big, too clinical. But Marcus put his hand on my knee under the desk, and I understood. It was the right word. It had always been the right word. "We're not pressing criminal charges right now," Marcus said. "We're giving her the chance to make this right through the civil process." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "That's generous." I looked at the folder. At 12 years of lies, pressed flat between manila covers. "This isn't revenge," I said. "This is accountability." Patricia almost smiled. Almost. "Then let's get started." Judith fought back. Of course she did. Within 10 days, she'd hired her own attorney, a younger man with a shiny briefcase who clearly hadn't read the full file yet. Through him, Judith issued a statement calling Kendra and Sloan ungrateful children attempting to commit elder abuse against a devoted single mother. It lasted about 72 hours. Her attorney reviewed Marcus's evidence package, the original will, the forged version, the bank records, the recorded phone call, the forensic accounting report. 3 days later, he called Judith into his office and told her what Patricia Sinclair had already told us. "Mrs. Hale, I strongly recommend you settle." Judith refused, fired him, tried to find another attorney. 2 declined after reviewing the case. Then the phone calls started. She called Aunt Colleen. Colleen didn't pick up. She called Uncle Greg. He answered once. "You need help, Judith. Real help. Not from me. From a professional." He hung up. She called Sloan 3 times. On the 4th, Sloane answered, "Mom, I love you, but I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Sloane, please, you're all I have left." "Then start by telling the truth, Mom. Not your version, the actual truth." Judith hung up. I didn't hear any of these calls firsthand. Sloane told me about them later, over coffee, her hands wrapped around the mug like she was trying to hold herself together. What I did hear, from Marcus, who heard it from Patricia, was that Judith spent that first week alone in the house she'd bought with money that wasn't hers. She sat in the living room and looked at old photos. 4 people in a frame, her, me, Sloane, and Grandpa Harold at a 4th of July picnic. I don't know if she cried out of guilt or out of loss, but I know this. The people she'd lost weren't in the photo. They were the ones she'd driven away. The civil case took 4 months. It felt like 4 years. Patricia Sinclair was methodical. She filed the recovery suit, submitted Marcus's forensic accounting report, and presented the forged will alongside the authenticated original. The judge reviewed everything. Judith's third attorney, a court-appointed one after she'd burned through her savings trying to fight, didn't contest the evidence. He couldn't. There was nothing to contest. The ruling was straightforward. Judith Hale was ordered to return the full trust amount of $185,000, plus accrued interest, totaling approximately $214,000, to be divided equally between Kendra and Sloane Daniels. To pay, Judith had to sell the house she'd purchased 6 years ago, the house with the new kitchen, the paved driveway, the backyard she'd hosted Easter brunches in, the house that cost $280,000 and was paid for, in large part, with money stolen from her own daughters and her own father's dying wishes. It sold in 31 days. After the trust repayment and legal fees, Judith moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. No backyard, no driveway, no Easter brunches. Aunt Colleen filed a separate civil claim for the $30,000 Judith had borrowed and never returned. She won. The money came out of the remaining sale proceeds. Uncle Greg requested a formal audit of the trust's historical transactions. An additional $15,000 in unauthorized withdrawals was uncovered and added to the judgment. Judith was permanently removed from any fiduciary role involving family assets. And the church, Hillcrest Community Church, where Judith had served on the women's ministry board for 9 years, quietly asked her to step back for a season. Nobody used the word expelled. They didn't have to. The numbers didn't lie. And this time, neither did the court. Sloane never posted the video online. She told me she thought about it, once, late at night, when she was angry enough to want the whole world to see. But she didn't. Instead, she sent it privately. Uncle Greg, Aunt Colleen, Cousin Robert, a handful of family members who'd spent years hearing Judith's version of everything and never questioned it. The video made its way through the family like a quiet earthquake. No one shared it publicly, but everyone who watched it came away, changed. The calls started coming in, not to Judith, but to me. Cousin Robert was first. "I'm sorry, Kendra. I believed her. I should have asked you." Then Aunt Colleen's husband, Frank. "We had no idea. None of us did." Then a letter, handwritten, on cream stationery, in shaking cursive. It was from Aunt Dorothy, Grandpa Harold's sister, 78 years old, living alone in a small house 2 states away. She wrote, "Dear Kendra, I just learned what my niece did to you and your sister. Harold would be so proud of you, sweetheart. He always said you had the strongest heart in the family. Don't you ever let anyone make you doubt that. Love, Aunt Dorothy." I read that letter at the kitchen table and cried so hard Marcus had to bring me tissues from the other room. Not because of the money, because someone who'd known my grandfather, who remembered him, saw me the way he did. But Aunt Dorothy's letter came with something else. A piece of information I hadn't expected. "Your grandfather wrote you a letter before he passed," she wrote at the bottom. "He gave it to Judith to deliver. Did you ever receive it?" I hadn't. I never knew it existed. Marcus found it 3 weeks later, in a box in Judith's old house, discovered during the estate sale. Sealed. Undelivered. 12 years in a box. My grandfather's last words to me, stolen along with everything else. I opened Grandpa Harold's letter alone. Marcus offered to sit with me. I told him I needed 5 minutes. He kissed my forehead and closed the bedroom door behind him. The envelope was yellowed. My name was written on the front in Grandpa's handwriting. Blocky, slanted, the penmanship of a man who'd spent 50 years holding a carpenter's pencil instead of a pen. Inside, one page, lined notebook paper. Kendra, girl, you've got more heart than anyone I know. Don't let anyone tell you different. I set something aside for you and Sloan so you'd both have a good start. Your mama will take care of it until you're ready. I love you, sweetheart. Don't ever forget that. Grandpa H. I held that letter against my chest for a long time. 2 days later, I met Sloan at the cafe where I'd first met Marcus. Same corner booth. She was already there when I arrived, both hands wrapped around a coffee she hadn't touched. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, she said. You were surviving too, Sloan. She told me you were jealous of me. That's why you were always distant. She told me you didn't want me around. We stared at each other. Two sisters who'd grown up in the same house, under the same roof, with the same mother, and had been kept apart by design. She played us against each other, Sloan said quietly. The whole time. I know. Marcus called me, before the wedding, to personally invite me. Mom had told me you didn't want me there. I closed my eyes. Even now, months later, the layers kept unfolding. I want us to be real sisters, Sloan said, not whatever she made us. I reached across the table and took her hand. We already are. We sat there for an hour. We didn't solve everything, but we started, and starting was enough. 3 months after the wedding, a letter arrived. Judith's handwriting on the envelope, no return address. But I recognized the slant, the sharp J, the looping K of my name. I opened it at the kitchen table. Marcus was at work. I was alone, which felt right. It was short, 4 sentences. Kendra, you have destroyed this family. I hope you're proud of what you and that man have done. I will never forgive you. No apology, no acknowledgement, no truth. Just Judith, still rewriting the story, still casting herself as the victim, still refusing to look in the mirror. I sat with that letter for an hour. I let myself feel everything. The anger, the grief, the exhaustion, and underneath all of it, the small, stubborn sadness of a daughter who still wished her mother was different. Then I wrote back, Mom, I didn't destroy this family. The lies did. I don't hate you. I probably never will. But I will not let you hurt me again. If you ever want to have a relationship with me, it starts with honesty. Real honesty. Not the kind where you rewrite the story to make yourself the hero. Until then, I need space, and I need you to respect that. I sealed it, stamped it, walked it to the mailbox. I didn't wait for a response. Marcus came home that evening and found me on the couch, staring at the ceiling. You okay? I will be. He sat down next to me, didn't ask questions, just sat. I looked around our apartment. Small, rented, nothing fancy. On the wall, our wedding photo. I'm smiling. Marcus is smiling. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible, Sloan is laughing in her sage green dress. 3 people who chose truth over comfort. That was enough. That was more than enough. Love without honesty isn't love, I said to no one in particular. It's just control with a nicer name. 6 months after the wedding. A Tuesday morning. October again. I'm sitting in my new studio. A small space above a bakery downtown. Rented with a piece of the money that was always supposed to be mine. There's a drafting table by the window, a second-hand bookshelf full of design books, a framed print of a cardinal that Marcus gave me because Grandpa Harold used to say cardinals were visitors from people who love you. Sloan comes by every Thursday now. We're learning how to be sisters without a filter between us. It's awkward sometimes. We don't agree on everything, but we show up. That's the part that matters. Marcus is still Marcus. Steady, quiet, still double-checks the grocery receipt every single time. Last week he caught a pricing error at the store, and I laughed until I couldn't breathe. Some things don't change, thank God. And Judith? Sloan tells me she started seeing a therapist. I don't know if it's real or if it's another performance. I've decided it's not my job to find out. I spent 29 years trying to decode my mother. I'm done. I used to think strength meant keeping the peace, saying yes when I meant no, swallowing the truth to keep someone else comfortable. Now I know. Strength is standing in a room full of people and choosing honesty over comfort. Even when your voice shakes, even when the person you're standing up to is the person who raised you. My mother gave me the worst gift anyone could give at a wedding. But my husband gave me the best one, the truth. And my grandfather, even from the other side, never stopped fighting for me. If you're watching this and something in your life feels off, a number that doesn't add up, a story that keeps changing, a person who makes you feel small every time you ask a question, trust that feeling. You're not crazy. You might just be surrounded by someone else's lies. My name is Kendra Daniels. I'm 29 years old, and I finally know exactly who I am. Here's what I took from all of this. 1. If someone controls your money, they control your life. Check your own accounts. Know your own numbers, no matter who tells you not to. 2. Silence isn't loyalty. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is speak up, even when everyone around you would rather you stay quiet. 3. The right partner won't just love you. They'll fight for the truth right alongside you. If this story meant something to you, please hit like and subscribe. It makes more of a difference than you know. And if you've ever had to set a boundary with someone in your own family, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. There's another story in the description I think you'll really connect with. Click it. I'll see you there.